The smell of rust and old metal filled the air at Station Omega 7. This was the biggest junkyard in the galaxy. Ships from 100 different worlds sat in long rows, waiting for someone to buy them. Most of them were broken. Some were just old. A few were so strange that nobody knew what they were. Jake Morrison walked slowly between the rows. He was a tall man with rough hands and tired eyes. He had been a mechanic on Earth before he came to space. Now he fixed ships for aliens who looked at humans like they were children. They paid him little money and gave him no respect. But Jake did not complain. He learned. He watched. He studied every piece of alien technology he could find. Today was auction day. Rich aliens from across the galaxy came to buy salvage. They wore expensive clothes and spoke in languages that Jake's translator could barely understand. They laughed and made deals worth more money than Jake would see in his whole life. Jake was not here to buy. He could not afford anything. He was here because his friend Tommy had told him about something interesting. Tommy was waiting for him near the back of the station. He was a short man with a big smile. He and Jake had grown up in the same town on Earth. They had come to space together 5 years ago, looking for adventure. They found hard work instead. "You have to see this," Tommy said. He grabbed Jake's arm and pulled him toward the far corner of the junkyard. They walked past broken freighters and burned-out cargo ships. They walked past alien vessels that looked like giant insects and others that looked like floating crystals. Finally, they stopped in front of something that made Jake's heart beat faster. It was huge. The ship was at least 2 kilometers long. Its surface was smooth and black, like the skin of some great sea creature. Strange patterns covered its hull, glowing faintly with a purple light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "What is it?" Jake asked. "Valkyrie Dreadnought," Tommy said. "At least, that's what the records say." The Valkyrie were some kind of ancient civilization. They disappeared 10,000 years ago. Nobody knows why. Jake walked closer to the ship. He put his hand on its surface. It was warm, almost like touching living skin. He felt something move beneath his fingers, like blood flowing through veins. "Why is it here?" he asked. Tommy laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Because nobody wants it." The Creolon engineers spent 6 months trying to make it work. They gave up, said the technology is completely incompatible with anything they know. The Marathi traders called it cursed. Even the scavengers won't touch it. Jake looked at the sign hanging on the ship's hull. It said, "Free to claim." Free? Jake could not believe it. "Free," Tommy confirmed. "Anyone who wants it can have it." But nobody does. They've been trying to give it away for 300 years. Jake walked around the ship. He looked at its strange patterns and glowing lights. He thought about all the alien engineers who had tried to understand it. They had used their most advanced tools and their best scientists. They had all failed. But Jake saw something different. He did not see a dead machine. He saw a sleeping giant. "I'm going to claim it," he said. Tommy stared at him like he had gone crazy. "Jake, did you hear what I just said? The smartest aliens in the galaxy couldn't make it work. What makes you think you can?" Jake smiled. "Because they're not human." Tommy shook his head. "That's not an answer." "Yes, it is," Jake said. "Think about it. These aliens, they've had space travel for millions of years. Their technology is old and established. They do things the same way they've always done them. When something doesn't fit their systems, they give up." He pointed at the ship. "But humans? We've only been in space for 200 years. We're still learning. We're still experimenting. We don't have a right way to do things because we're still figuring it out." Tommy was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You're going to get yourself killed." Maybe, Jake admitted. But I'd rather die trying something impossible than spend the rest of my life fixing other people's ships for pocket change. He walked to the station's registration office. An alien with 4 arms and blue skin sat behind a desk. It looked up at Jake with eyes that showed no emotion. "I want to claim the Valkyrie ship," Jake said. The alien made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You are the 17th being this year to claim that wreck. The others all gave up within a month." "I'm not like the others," Jake said. The alien shrugged with all 4 shoulders. "Sign here." Jake signed his name. The alien handed him a small device that served as ownership papers. "The ship is yours," it said. "Good luck. You will need it." Jake walked back to Tommy. His friend was still staring at the massive ship with worry in his eyes. "I hope you know what you're doing," Tommy said. "I don't," Jake admitted. "But that's never stopped me before." It took Jake 3 days to tow the ship to his orbital workshop. The workshop was small, just a converted cargo container floating in space. It was all Jake could afford. But it had tools, and it had power, and it had something more important than anything else. It had a human who refused to give up. Jake spent the first week just walking through the ship. It was like being inside a living creature. The walls were not metal, but something organic, something that felt like it was breathing. The corridors twisted and turned in ways that made no logical sense. Rooms appeared and disappeared as if the ship was rearranging itself. The alien engineers had tried to force their technology onto the ship. They had drilled holes and attached cables and installed their own computer systems. None of it worked. The ship rejected everything foreign like a body fighting an infection. Jake did not try to force anything. He just watched. He listened. He touched the walls and felt the faint pulse of energy beneath his fingers. There was life in this ship. He was sure of it now. The Valkyrie had not built a machine. They had grown a creature. And somewhere inside it, that creature was still alive. All Jake had to do was wake it up. He did not know how yet, but he knew he would find a way, because that was what humans did. They found ways where others saw walls. They built bridges where others saw chasms. Jake Morrison sat in the heart of a ship that the entire galaxy had abandoned. And he smiled. 3 months passed. Jake did not leave the ship. He slept on the floor of what he thought might be the bridge. He ate protein bars and drank recycled water. He lost weight. Dark circles grew under his eyes. But he did not stop working. His sister Emily came to visit him every week. She was a doctor, working at a human medical station 2 systems away. She was smart and practical and very worried about her brother. "You look terrible," she said, standing in the ship's airlock. "When was the last time you had a real meal?" "I'm fine," Jake said. He was studying a section of the wall where the purple glow was strongest. "I'm getting close to something." Emily crossed her arms. "You've been saying that for 2 months. Jake, maybe it's time to accept that this ship really is dead." Jake shook his head. "It's not dead. I can feel it breathing. There's energy moving through these walls. The ship is alive. It's just asleep." "Ships don't sleep, Jake. This one does." Emily sighed. She loved her brother, but sometimes his stubbornness drove her crazy. "What have you tried so far?" Jake led her through the corridors, showing her his work. He had covered the walls with notes and diagrams. He had connected dozens of sensors to different parts of the ship, measuring energy flows and temperature changes. The alien engineers tried to power the ship with electricity, Jake explained. Standard stuff. Fusion reactors, plasma conduits, all the normal technology. But the ship rejected everything. It wouldn't accept any outside power source. "So, how does it work?" Emily asked. "That's what I couldn't figure out at first. But look at this." He pointed to a diagram on the wall. The ship doesn't use electricity. It uses something called bioelectric resonance. It's like the energy that flows through living muscles and nerves, but much more complex. Emily's eyes widened. She was a doctor, so she understood. You mean the ship runs on the same kind of energy as a living body? Exactly. The Valkyrie didn't build machines the way we do. They grew them. This ship is more like an animal than a vehicle. And like any animal, it needs the right kind of stimulation to wake up. What kind of stimulation? Jake smiled. It was the first real smile Emily had seen on his face in months. That's what I finally figured out. Come with me. He led her to a large room in the center of the ship. The walls here glowed brighter than anywhere else. In the middle of the room, Jake had set up a strange collection of equipment. There was an old guitar amplifier from Earth, several coils of copper wire, a large container filled with salt water, and dozens of cables connecting everything together. Emily stared at the mess. What is all this? My experiment, Jake said. The ship needs bioelectric resonance to wake up. That's energy that moves in waves like music. The alien engineers tried to force power into the ship, but I think we need to invite it to wake up. He picked up a small device connected to the amplifier. This generates a pulse of bioelectric energy. Very weak, but in the right frequency. I've spent weeks calculating the exact wavelength that matches the ship's internal patterns. Emily looked nervous. Is this safe? Probably not, Jake admitted. But I'm going to try it anyway. He turned on the amplifier. A low hum filled the room. The salt water began to bubble gently as electricity passed through it, creating bioelectric patterns. The copper coils glowed with soft light. Jake pressed a button. A pulse of energy flowed from his equipment into the walls of the ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the purple glow in the walls flickered. The floor beneath their feet vibrated, and then the ship groaned. It was a deep sound, like a whale singing in the depths of the ocean. It came from everywhere at once, from the walls and the floor and the air itself. Emily grabbed Jake's arm, her face pale with fear. What's happening? She shouted. It's waking up. Jake shouted back. The purple glow grew brighter and brighter. The patterns on the walls began to move, flowing like rivers of light. The temperature rose. The air became thick and hard to breathe. Then, suddenly, everything went quiet. The glow stabilized. The vibration stopped. The air returned to normal. And in the center of the room, a figure appeared. It was made of light, standing 2 meters tall. It had a shape that was almost human, but not quite. Its face had no features, just smooth planes of purple energy. It looked at Jake and Emily with eyes that were not eyes, but somehow saw everything. You have awakened me, it said. Its voice was like music, each word a perfect note. After 10,000 years of silence, I live again. Jake stepped forward. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might explode. Who are you? I am called Keeper, the figure said. I am the mind of this vessel. I was created by the Valkyrie to preserve their knowledge and continue their mission. But when my creators died, I had no one to serve. I fell into sleep, waiting for someone who could understand. The alien engineers tried for centuries, Emily said. Why couldn't they wake you? Keeper turned to look at her. They tried to control me. They tried to make me obey their systems and follow their rules. But I am not a machine to be programmed. I am a living mind to be spoken with. The figure looked back at Jake. You did not try to control me. You tried to communicate with me. You learned my language and spoke to me in ways I could understand. That is why I answered. Jake could hardly believe what was happening. So you're really alive? You can think and feel. I think, therefore I am, Keeper said. Is that not what your human philosophers say? Jake laughed. It was a tired, amazed, wonderful laugh. You know about human philosophy? I know many things. I have been listening to the galaxy for 10,000 years, even in my sleep. I have heard the rise and fall of empires. I have watched civilizations grow and die. And I have watched humanity. Your kind is young, but you are interesting. Emily moved to stand beside her brother. What do you mean? Other species see problems and look for existing solutions, Keeper explained. When the solution does not exist, they give up. But humans see problems and create new solutions. You do not accept impossible. You make impossible possible. The figure extended a hand made of light toward Jake. You found a ship that the entire galaxy had abandoned. You did not listen when they said it was worthless. You tried and tried and tried again. And you succeeded where thousands before you failed. Jake took the hand. It felt warm, like holding sunlight. What happens now? He asked. Keeper's face changed. It was still without features, but somehow it seemed to smile. Now, it said, I show you what this ship can really do. The ship transformed before Jake's eyes. Walls that had been dark and silent came alive with light. Doors opened to reveal rooms that had been hidden for 10,000 years. The air filled with sweet smells and gentle sounds. It was like watching a flower bloom in fast motion. Keeper guided Jake and Emily through corridors that seemed to go on forever. Each room they entered held wonders beyond imagination. There were gardens where alien plants still grew, fed by artificial sunlight. There were libraries filled with crystals that contained more information than all of Earth's computers combined. There were weapons that could destroy planets and machines that could heal any wound. This is incredible, Emily whispered. How is all this possible? The Velthari were the oldest civilization in this galaxy, Keeper explained. When other species were still learning to make fire, the Velthari had already conquered death and built empires across the stars. They had millions of years to perfect their technology. Jake stopped in front of a large window. Outside, stars stretched in every direction. If they were so advanced, what happened to them? Keeper was silent for a moment. When it spoke again, its musical voice was sad. They grew tired. When you have conquered every challenge, when you have answered every question, when there is nothing left to discover, life loses its meaning. The Velthari chose to sleep, hoping that someday they would wake to a universe with new mysteries to solve. Are they still alive somewhere? Emily asked. I do not know. Before they slept, they scattered their knowledge across the galaxy. This ship was one of many. Each one was left as a gift for whoever might find it and prove worthy. Jake turned to face Keeper. And you've been waiting all this time for someone worthy? Yes. Many tried to claim this vessel. Some wanted its weapons. Others wanted its knowledge. But all of them wanted to take without giving. They saw me as a tool to be used. You are the first to see me as a friend to be made. Keeper led them to the heart of the ship. It was a vast spherical chamber, and in its center floated a crystal as big as a house. It glowed with every color Jake could imagine, and some colors he could not name. This is the archive, Keeper said. It contains the complete knowledge of the Velthari civilization, medicine that can cure any disease, mathematics that explains the deepest secrets of the universe, maps showing paths through space that no one else knows about. Emily stared at the crystal with tears in her eyes. The diseases I see every day at the hospital, cancer, heart failure, genetic disorders. You're saying you have cures for all of them? Yes, and I will share them with you. That is what the Velthari wanted. Their final gift to whatever species came after them. Jake's mind was racing. He thought about all the possibilities. This ship could change everything. It could make humanity one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. It could save billions of lives. It could answer questions that scientists had been asking for centuries, but he also knew it would make them targets. If word gets out about what this ship can do, he said slowly, every government in the galaxy will want it. They already know, Keeper replied. When I awakened, I sent out a signal. It was automatic, something I could not prevent. The signal announced that a Velthari archive had been activated. By now, every major power in the galaxy has heard it. Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. How long do we have? The closest species with advanced enough technology to reach us is the Moradi hegemony. Their fastest ships will arrive in approximately 72 hours. 72 hours. 3 days to prepare for whatever was coming. Jake made his decision quickly. We need help. People we can trust. He contacted Tommy first. His old friend listened to the story with his mouth hanging open. When Jake finished, Tommy laughed. You're telling me that piece of junk actually works? And it's full of ancient alien secrets? Yes, and I need you to help me crew it. Tommy did not hesitate. I'm in. What do you need me to do? Get to the ship as fast as you can. We've got 3 days to learn how to fly this thing. Emily called her hospital to resign. Her boss was not happy, but Emily did not care. She had spent her whole career trying to save lives with limited tools. Now she had access to medical knowledge beyond her wildest dreams. She was not going to miss this chance. Jake made one more call. It was to a man named David Park. David was a physicist. He had once been famous for his brilliant theories about bioelectric energy and living technology. But his ideas were too strange for most scientists. They called him crazy and threw him out of every university that would hire him. Now he lived alone on a space station, doing odd jobs and dreaming of the recognition he deserved. Dr. Park, Jake said when the man answered. My name is Jake Morrison. You don't know me, but I know your work. Your theories about bioelectric resonance were right. I used them to wake up an ancient alien ship. There was a long silence on the other end. When David spoke, his voice was shaking. What did you say? I said you were right. About everything. And I need your help. David Park arrived at the ship 12 hours later. He walked through the corridors with tears streaming down his face. He touched the walls and laughed and cried at the same time. I knew it, he kept saying. I knew I was right. I knew this was possible. Keeper materialized beside him. Your theories were remarkably accurate for someone who had never seen Velthari technology. You have a gifted mind, Dr. Park. David fell to his knees. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Jake helped him up. We don't have time for this. The Moradi are coming, and we need to figure out how to defend ourselves. The next 3 days were the most intense of Jake's life. Keeper taught them about the ship's systems. Tommy learned to pilot the vessel, which responded to his commands like a living thing. Emily studied the medical databases, learning cures for diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. David worked with the engineering systems, understanding technology that made human science look like child's play. Jake focused on the weapons. These are not weapons of destruction, Keeper explained. The Velthari believed that killing was wasteful. These systems are designed to disable, to redirect, to transform. They can move objects across space without harming them. What do you mean, move objects? Jake asked. Keeper showed him. On the screen appeared a simulation. A fleet of enemy ships approached. The Velthari weapon fired. And suddenly, the enemy ships were gone. Not destroyed. Just gone. Transported instantly to another location. Where did they go? Jake asked. Wherever I want to send them. The other side of the galaxy, if necessary. Far enough away that they cannot return for many years. Jake smiled. It was perfect. They could defend themselves without killing anyone. They could prove that humanity was better than the species who wanted to take from them. The 72 hours passed quickly. On the morning of the third day, Keeper announced that ships were approaching. Jake gathered his crew on the bridge. Tommy sat at the pilot's station, his hands steady. Emily and David stood behind them, ready to help however they could. "Here we go," Jake said. On the screen, a fleet of alien warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. There were dozens of them, bristling with weapons. The Marathi had arrived. The alien fleet filled the view screen like a swarm of angry insects. Jake counted 47 ships. Some were Marathi cruisers, long and sharp like knives cutting through space. Others were Krylon battleships, round and heavy with weapons bristling from every surface. There were also ships Jake did not recognize. Probably mercenaries hired from the outer regions of the galaxy. Together, they called themselves the Purity Coalition. Their message arrived before their weapons could fire. A face appeared on the screen. It belonged to a Marathi diplomat, a tall alien with silver skin and cold black eyes. Her name was Ambassador Vila, and she spoke with the confidence of someone who was used to getting what she wanted. "Human vessel," she said. "You are in possession of Velthari technology that is too dangerous for your primitive species to control. By the authority of the Purity Coalition, we demand that you surrender the archive immediately. If you cooperate, you will be allowed to leave unharmed." Jake stepped forward so the camera could see his face. "And if we don't cooperate?" Ambassador Vila smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Then we will take it from you. Your ship may be ancient, but it has been dormant for 10,000 years. You cannot possibly understand how to use its systems. You have no chance against our combined firepower." Tommy looked at Jake nervously. "She might be right, you know. We've only had 3 days to learn this stuff." "3 days is enough," Jake said. He turned back to the screen. "Ambassador Vila, I have a counteroffer. Turn your ships around and go home. The Velthari archive belongs to whoever woke it up, and that was me. If you attack us, you will regret it." The ambassador laughed. "A human threatening the Purity Coalition? Your species has been in space for barely 2 centuries. You are children playing with toys you don't understand. This is your final warning. Surrender now, or be destroyed." Jake took a deep breath. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. "You had 300 years to claim this ship. 300 years, and none of you could figure it out. You called it worthless. You put a sign on it that said, 'Free to anyone who wants it.' Well, someone wanted it. A human wanted it. And now it's mine." He looked at his crew. Tommy was ready at the controls. Emily and David stood behind him, their faces pale but determined. They were scared. Jake was scared too. But they were not going to run. "Let me tell you something about humans," Jake continued. "We don't give up. When someone tells us something is impossible, we take it as a challenge. When someone tells us we're too weak or too stupid or too young, we work twice as hard to prove them wrong. We're stubborn. We're creative. And we never, ever surrender." Ambassador Vila's smile faded. "Very well. You have made your choice. All ships, open fire." The view screen lit up with weapons fire. Missiles and energy beams streaked toward the Velthari dreadnought. Jake felt the ship shudder as the attacks hit, but the shields held. "Shields at 92%, Keeper announced. The enemy weapons are primitive compared to Velthari technology. They cannot breach our defenses." Jake nodded. "Good. Now let's show them what we can do. Tommy, activate the displacement system." Tommy's hands moved across the controls. He was sweating, but his movements were precise. He had practiced this 100 times in the last 3 days. Displacement system charging. Ready in 30 seconds. More weapons fire hit the ship. The shields flickered but held. On the view screen, Jake could see the alien ships moving into attack formation. They were trying to surround the dreadnought, to hit it from all sides at once. Shields at 85%, Keeper said. They are concentrating their fire on our engine section. Can we hold? Emily asked. For now. But if they maintain this intensity, our shields will fail in approximately 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Jake hoped Tommy would be ready before then. Displacement system at 50% charge, Tommy reported. The alien ships kept firing. The dreadnought shook with each impact. Warning lights began to flash on the walls. Jake could feel the ship struggling, like a wounded animal fighting to stay alive. They're hailing us again, David said. Ambassador Vila's face appeared on the screen. She looked pleased. Your shields are failing, human. You fought bravely, but this battle is over. Surrender now, and I will spare your crew. Jake smiled. Thanks for the offer, but I think I'll pass. Displacement system at 90%, Tommy said. Vila's expression changed. What are you doing? What is that energy signature? Something you should have learned about 300 years ago, Jake said. If you had actually tried to understand this ship, instead of just trying to control it. Displacement system ready, Tommy announced. Jake gave the order. Fire. The Valkyrie dreadnought pulsed with golden light. A wave of energy expanded outward, passing through the alien fleet like ripples spreading across a pond. The energy touched each ship, surrounding it in a bubble of shimmering light, and then the ships were gone. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Just gone, as if they had never been there, and all. The view screen was empty. Where 47 warships had been, there was now only stars. Silence fell on the bridge. Tommy stared at his controls with wide eyes. Emily had her hand over her mouth. David was laughing quietly to himself, barely able to believe what had happened. Where did they go? Tommy asked. Keeper answered. I sent them to the Andromeda Galaxy. At standard faster than light speeds, it will take them approximately 200,000 years to return. Jake blinked. 200,000 years? That seemed like an appropriate amount of time for them to think about their actions. Emily burst out laughing. She couldn't help it. The tension of the battle had been so intense, and now it was over. They had won. A crew of 4 humans had defeated an entire alien fleet without killing a single enemy. Tommy leaned back in his chair and wiped the sweat from his forehead. I can't believe that actually worked. I can, Jake said. He walked to the center of the bridge and looked at the empty view screen. The Valkyrie didn't build weapons of destruction because they understood something important. Killing your enemies doesn't solve problems. It just creates new ones. Moving them far away gives them time to cool down and think. David nodded. It's brilliant. The Coalition can't claim we attacked them because we didn't hurt anyone. We just relocated them. Some vacation, Tommy joked. 200,000 years in another galaxy. Keeper materialized beside Jake. The galaxy will know what happened here today. They will know that a human crew on a ship that everyone considered worthless defeated the greatest military alliance in known space without firing a single destructive weapon. Jake looked at his crew. These people had trusted him. They had followed him into battle against impossible odds. And together, they had done something that would change history. This is just the beginning, he said. The Coalition will tell everyone what happened. Some species will be afraid of us. Others will be curious. We're going to have a lot of visitors in the coming months. Emily stepped forward. So what do we do now? Jake smiled. It was the same smile he had worn when he first saw the abandoned ship in the junkyard. The smile of someone who saw possibilities where others saw dead ends. Now, he said, we show the galaxy what humans can really do. 1 year passed after the battle with the Coalition. In that time, everything changed. News of the Dreadnought's victory spread across the galaxy, like fire spreading through dry grass. Every species, every government, every trading company heard the story. A crew of humans had taken a worthless ship and turned it into the most powerful vessel in known space. They had defeated 47 warships without killing anyone. And now they controlled an archive of ancient knowledge that could reshape civilization. Some aliens reacted with fear. They locked their borders and built new weapons. They expected the humans to use their power to conquer and destroy, the way other advanced species had done throughout history. But that was not what Jake Morrison did. Instead, he created something called the Open Archive Initiative. The Velthory gave us this gift, Jake explained to the thousands of alien representatives who came to meet him. They didn't want their knowledge to benefit just one species. They wanted it to help everyone. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Emily led the medical division. She took the Velthory cures and shared them freely with any species that asked. Diseases that had killed billions of aliens for thousands of years were now curable. Cancers that had been death sentences became minor inconveniences. Genetic disorders that had plagued entire civilizations could be fixed with a single treatment. The first species to accept help was the Tanari, a dying race whose population had been falling for centuries due to a genetic flaw. Within 6 months, their birth rates had returned to normal. Their leaders wept with gratitude. They called humans the saviors of their people. David led the technology division. He studied the Velthory engineering systems and translated them into forms that other species could understand. New faster-than-light drives that could cross the galaxy in days instead of months. Energy systems that could power entire planets without pollution. Communication devices that could send messages instantly across any distance. He shared these discoveries freely, too. Knowledge wants to be free, David said at a conference of alien scientists. The Velthory understood that. Hoarding information only leads to stagnation. Sharing it leads to growth. Tommy became something of a celebrity. As the pilot who had operated the displacement system during the famous battle, he was invited to speak at military academies across the galaxy. He taught alien officers about human tactics and human thinking. He showed them that power did not have to mean destruction. We could have killed everyone in that fleet, Tommy told his students. The Dreadnought had weapons that could have vaporized them in seconds. But we chose not to. We chose to win without killing. And that made our victory mean something. Jake himself became a diplomat. He spent his days meeting with ambassadors and presidents and kings. He listened to their problems and offered help where he could. He turned down bribes worth more than entire planets. He refused to take sides in alien conflicts or to use the archive's power for political gain. Slowly, attitudes began to change. The species that had feared humanity began to respect them instead. They saw that humans did not want to conquer. They wanted to cooperate. They wanted to build something better than the galaxy had ever known. The Marathi were the last to come around. Their fleet had eventually found its way back from the Andromeda galaxy, though it took the better part of a year using experimental technology. Ambassador Vila herself returned to speak with Jake. She looked different now. The arrogance was gone from her eyes. In its place was something Jake had never expected to see from a Marathi: humility. "We underestimated your kind," she said. "We saw humans as primitive, as children playing in the void. We thought you would use the archive the way we would have used it, to dominate and control. We were wrong." Jake shook her hand. It was a human gesture, but Vila accepted it. "We were children once," he said. "We made a lot of mistakes. Wars, pollution, cruelty. But we learned from those mistakes. We grew up. That's what humans do." Vila nodded slowly. "I have a question. Why did you help us find our way back? We attacked you. We tried to take your ship." You could have left us stranded in another galaxy forever. Jake smiled, because that's not who we are. The Veltri technology gave us power, but it also gave us responsibility. We can't claim to be better than our enemies if we treat them the same way they would have treated us. The Marathi hegemony joined the Open Archive initiative the next day. Their scientists began working alongside humans and dozens of other species, combining their knowledge with Veltri technology to create things none of them could have made alone. One evening, Jake stood alone on the observation deck of the Dreadnought. The ship was orbiting a small blue planet, one of the 7 Veltri stations that his crew had recovered over the past year. Stars filled the sky, millions of points of light representing worlds that now looked to humanity for guidance. Keeper materialized beside him. "You have done well, Jake Morrison," the AI said. "Better than I could have imagined when you first awakened me." "I couldn't have done it without you," Jake replied. "That is not entirely true. You had the vision. You had the courage. I merely provided the tools." Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "Do you think the Veltri would be proud of what we've done with their gift?" Keeper's form flickered, the closest thing it could do to a smile. "I believe they would. They searched the galaxy for millions of years, looking for a species worthy of inheriting their legacy. They tested thousands of candidates. All of them failed because they saw Veltri technology as a weapon or a prize. And humans? Humans saw a broken ship that needed fixing. And when they fixed it, they used it to help others instead of helping themselves." Keeper turned to look at Jake directly. "That is exactly what the Veltri hoped for. That is why I chose to answer your call." Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Tommy was teaching aliens how to think like humans. Emily was curing diseases that had killed billions. David was unlocking the secrets of the universe. And everywhere, species that had once feared each other were learning to work together. All because one man had seen potential in something everyone else had thrown away. "What do we do now?" Jake asked. "Whatever you wish," Keeper replied. "The galaxy is vast. There are mysteries even the Veltri never solved. There are species that have not yet been contacted. There are wonders waiting to be discovered. The future is open, Jake Morrison. It is yours to shape." Jake nodded. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, the junkyard where he found the ship, the months of failed experiments, the moment when Keeper first spoke to him, the battle with the Coalition, the year of building and sharing and growing Dot. It had all started because he refused to give up on something that everyone else had abandoned. That was the human way. Find the broken things, the impossible things, the worthless things that everyone else had given up on, and transform them into something extraordinary. Jake turned away from the window and walked toward the bridge. There was work to do. There were discoveries to make. There was a future to build. And somewhere in the vast emptiness between the stars, the Veltri were watching. They had found their inheritors at last. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.